This is Blacklisted News Radio, bringing you the intelligent news, information, and analysis you need to arm yourself with. Now, here's your host, Doug Owen.
And welcome to another live edition of Blacklisted Radio. It's the 22nd day of May 2016. I am your host, as always, Doug Owen. It's good to be back, as always. Really excited. Have some personal news that I can't share with you guys quite yet, but this week has definitely been kind of a life changer in a lot of ways. New paths, new directions, and of course, if you've listened to the show, you know it's kind of my weekly stream of consciousness. I talk about news. We talk about all the things that you can find at blacklistednews.com. Of course, the mothership of this show is blacklistedраdio.com. Go there, meet the ambassadors in the chat room, check it out. There's a new redesigned website that's a lot more mobile friendly and a lot easier to navigate for people that have an array of different computers. If you're fighting Windows 10 last week, we were doing that. It's crazy. I'll get to that. But if you listen to the show for a while, you know, it's kind of a personal testament to the things that I see in this country and really around the world with just a new global, I hate to say it, but a globalized world we live in, and the pros and cons. The march towards a centralized new world order, if you will, and the fight to retain rights and the ability to control our own governments from within. And people have been getting quite a shock this week. So anyway, the Las Vegas Democratic Convention, interesting to see some of the disheartened Democrats witnessing the farce that is partisan politics or even inter-party politics in the Democrat Party. Violence broke out. People were throwing chairs, apparently. People, if you haven't seen the video, it's got some explicitives, so I didn't bring it. But the people listening to the yeas and nays, whether or not to give the super delegates to Hillary Clinton, I mean, people are genuinely upset about especially populist, if you will, about the state of affairs within the Republican and Democrat Party. That's been a huge eye opener for I think a lot of people, and so this there's one. There's a future non-Democrat voter, hopefully, but people that are that are believers that believe that the Democrat Party is somewhat legitimate, that Hillary Clinton and or Bernie Sanders are viable alternatives to Donald Trump and his presumed election, are probably pretty disheartened. So, violence ensuing when people see democracy in action. It's the one thing that people believe that we have that others don't, and that's what makes America great, is that we get to choose our own destiny, that we have a popular vote, and that we have the ability to put people in power that we believe will work in our own interest, whatever that may be. Not so much anymore. So definitely a big unveiling of these completely corrupt and very undemocratic parties that dominate U.S. politics today, the Democrats and the Republicans. Unfortunately, there's just not enough people out there that can imagine a world without a Republican or Democrat at the helm. And Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, is not a viable option today. Not that I don't think he's viable. I think that, if you listen to his politics, I mean, he was a very successful businessman, governor, New Mexico, I think it was. He's, or maybe Arizona. But a guy that has credentials, that has all of the things that the qualities that you would want to see in a president, but people can't, wrap their minds around something other than the two. And that's because of this media perception that, these are the legitimate candidates. So I hope more and more people are kind of breaking away from that. We saw the contrary happen with the Tea Party, the co-opting of the Ron Paul revolution, the Tea Parties. People became disenfranchised, and that really spawned a huge movement towards independent liberty in the minds of many Republicans, and really has fractured their base in a lot of ways. And of course they don't have viable candidates either. People like John McCain and Sarah Palin and Mitt Romney. I mean, yeah, as laughable as maybe it seems to some of you that Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States in 2017, he doesn't seem any more or less desirable than any of those. But people are seeing democracy being ripped from them. Bernie keeps winning. He keeps winning, but he doesn't get those super delegates. People are seeing how this is rigged. Didn't mention this last week, but it's it shows you who is the chosen and why all of the other Democrats running against her are they're not anointed, they're not initiated, and they're not friends with Henry Kissinger, as we saw this week. Just a quick mention, people were, maybe shocked to see that Henry Kissinger is now one of the brain trustees for the Donald Trump revolution that's happening, I guess. Not a surprising outcome. He's going to go and pander to everyone, and one of the things they say that Hillary has that he doesn't is experience in geopolitics and understanding how the world works. So he's going to have to rely on the Council on Foreign Relations and probably the same gaggle of people that Hillary would be working with to maintain this level of legitimacy and all of that, the perception. But if you didn't go, I understand. Hillary Clinton held a $100,000 a head fundraiser, and of course it was held at the Rothschild residence of none other than where's her friend here? It's Evelyn, excuse me, Evelyn Rothschild, who is she's a Rothschild. I mean, when you talk about a dynasty and people that can afford $100,000 a head fundraiser, you're talking about the 0.0001% of people on planet Earth that could afford, number one, and would be allowed to attend such a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Not all of her fundraisers have gone so well. There was a recent one where people actually paid to go and heckle Hillary Clinton. Pretty laughable. I mean, it's funny. She plays it off pretty well. She's not a stranger to being yelled at on the stage and having things lobbed at her from time to time, shoe here and there. Like George Bush, she's in the shoe club. People have lobbed those at her, and she is somebody who has so much blood on her hands. It's no wonder that she is the chosen candidate for the 2016 Empire USA. And so it's very disheartening, I'm sure, to her to see, that she is lagging in the national polls. Of course, take all of those polls with a huge grain of salt. It does speak to how despised she really is by the American people, and I realize how much I hate her on a personal, moral, ethical, and political level, a value level. She is the antithesis of everything that I believe in and think a good person should be. So as far as that, I realized that blacklistednews.com has kind of become a haven for Hillary haters. And this is some social engineering unintentioned that I think just has come out of my focus on Hillary Clinton for so many years. We've aggregated close to 5,000 articles on Hillary Clinton alone in the last 3 years that actually had Hillary in the title. So probably many more mentions. So I have to be honest, I'm completely biased. I cannot stand Hillary Clinton at all. Donald Trump, I just think he would be more of the same. He would be like Hillary, but maybe not quite as Nazi-like, although people, do try to attribute him to being a Nazi and propelling bad rhetoric that is destabilizing the world. His words are so powerful and so profound and so insulting that it shakes the bedrocks of democracy, on and on and on. And that is your update. That is politics this week. We had a missing airplane. Egyptian aircraft went off radar. Now, the speculation is that it either had some kind of failure and fell apart in the sky, and or was shot down because there were military drills being conducted at the same time as per usual, and you have the potential for a terrorist bombing. Interestingly enough, I was waiting for it. ISIS to take responsibility. Did not hear that. I was kind of shocked that these guys, as much as they want to maintain relevance and being super scary, evil doers that are fighting the powers that stop them from having their caliphate, on and on, whatever you believe their agenda may be and whoever they may be. It seemed that they would take the opportunity, at least to me, to go ahead and just say, hey, look, another one for ISIS, another one for the team. Not yet. So I don't have a lot of insight into what actually happened, but it's good for ratings. It's good for TV. It's a great story. Where are the people? What happened? Okay, now they've released some pictures. And if you've seen the pictures, I mean, they're pretty. There's one that we published at Blacklisted News, the Egyptians put out there, that looks like you have some tattered and torn garments, things that you would expect to see in a wreckage site. But there's a couple T-shirts that look like they're brand new. Now, maybe the I'm trying to think, but maybe they were in luggage and they didn't roll much in the dirt and they weren't blown to pieces. I'm not a dynamic. I'm not a physicist. I don't study aerodynamics, and we don't have a lot of information about what happened, other than we do have the black boxes and the speculation row. This is where the mainstream media blames it on Russia. Doesn't really matter what the true outcome is or what the truth may be. People will continue to believe it because that narrative is told over and over again, and putting a lot of perspective on why it's okay to be in those long lines at the TSA. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems that the TSA is unable to get people on planes, and there was lots of teeth gnashing and rabble-rousing and anger on Twitter and Tumblr and the like because of these long lines and checkpoints. The TSA, of course, wants more money. Of course, that's not shocking. But, this is one of those instances where they say, see, get used to getting in line 3 hours before your flight so that we can have safety, absolute safety in the skies. So, that was a big focus, still being played out in a big way on the mainstream media. More fear of the Brexit. Everyone has seen this. If you haven't seen the propaganda coming out, it's pretty laughable. I mean, everything from people's wages going down to just today hearing about a 3% increase in food costs if we do have this breakaway of British voters on the 23rd. Tomorrow decide that they want independence from this Euro nightmare, the European Union, this economic union that has become a plague. And of course, you have to abide by EU ministers. You have control at the Troika in Brussels, and it overrides your ability to say, "Hey, look, we don't want all of these immigrants. We can't afford this. We can't take this many refugees. Hey, how about you, Israel? How about you take some? How about, I don't know, Saudi Arabia? How about other countries that are part of this coalition, NATO bloc? How about you do that?" Well, anyway, Hungary not playing ball, Poland not playing ball, and I mean, this is the fracturing of this union, for better or worse. I think with especially with this huge influx of Muslim and maybe a couple Christian refugees from a variety of countries, Turkey, Syria, others seeking a better life from Egypt, a lot of other destabilized countries. I mean, really, quite honestly, God only knows where people are coming from, because there's just no way to really track or vet people coming into the country. You just really, when you just have hordes of people walking up to the border with, next to nothing. Well, and now the Dutch want to strip the refugees of all cash, and people, are looking towards something much more, I think, sinister when these people come aboard. Maybe you should take all their cash. I don't know, but it just seems like a really, really bad place to be, where you're basically giving people food stamps, putting them on the dole, making them part of this socialist system, giving them all the health benefits and food that they need for all the sustenance. And I imagine that's pretty lacking as well. Many of the refugees probably not thrilled to be where they are, and we have seen that in violence and protests and sexual harassment, other outlashes at Western civilization, Western culture that they deem to be disgusting and immoral, and the need to eradicate it is at the forefront of militant religious Muslims. So, and that's shaking up Europe, and it's definitely an agenda to destroy cultures. And it's happening in a big way because Europe is just not designed for that kind of influx. You could put 100,000, 200,000, probably a few million Middle Eastern people into Texas, and nobody would notice much of a difference. You just wouldn't, because we have a vast, large area, huge cities that exceed millions of people, and would not probably change demographics all that much. But in Europe, anyway, I digress. Talking about Europe is, I think, important because it's kind of the beginning of a snowball if this Brexit happens, and I can't believe that it would, because of all the fear-mongering and the fact that the voting machines are probably pretty suspect. We've seen that in Arizona. Another thing that is really taking on a lot of public view, and that is the inaccuracies, the anomalies with voting here in these Democratic and Republican primaries. More so a focus now on the Democrats here in the U.S. But anyway, we have other things that we talked about last week, some updates to follow. Puerto Rico, Democrats and Republicans, a bipartisan group, have decided that they will bail out Puerto Rico. Not a surprise, not a shocker, but we have the Venezuela situation, and it's an indicator, I think, of things possible to come to this country. If you do have, maybe not in the short run, but in the long haul, where you have truly a fascist state in many ways. People like to call it, socialism. I think that you truly have fascism in Venezuela when you look at the corruption at the highest levels. A good indicator is Hugo Chavez's daughter, the one that he allowed to change their national flag. She's 36 years old, 2 years younger than old Mr. Doug Owen here, and she's worth $4.6 billion. Meanwhile, we have Maduro going after the U.S., talking about how this is part of a new Project Condor, warning other South American leaders. I'm sure Dilma Rousseff there in Brazil, who was recently ousted, and now they have a U.S. informant and part of the U.S. I think he was an ambassador to the. Oh, it looks like we have a break. Sorry about that. Quick break. We'll be back with more. It's Blacklisted Radio. All right, welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. Text me, 512-222-3067. If you leave notices and chat in the Spreaker stream box, it has a chat function. It's cool if you want to leave a note about the show or maybe a kudos or some criticism, but you can't really start a dialogue. If you shoot me your number, text me, I can text you right back, and that works a lot better. You can also follow us and tweet at us at BLN Radio on Twitter. You can call into the show. Love to hear what you guys think about the state of affairs. 800-313-9443 is the number to do so. And we were talking about the meltdown in Venezuela. Obviously, the U.S. has played an instrumental role in trying to destabilize and kill people like Hugo Chavez. Not a conspiracy theory. The CIA did try to assassinate Hugo Chavez. Whether or not they gave him the cancer, that's what he believed till the bitter end. I don't know. But it wouldn't shock me that he died because of, well, a lot of things. I don't know. It's pretty toxic over there, and they do live in the third largest exporter of oil country in the world. You would think that they would have plenty of money and plenty of buyers. And, when you have the people stealing at the very top billions of dollars with no account, then you run into problems, especially in a fascist state where you have state-run companies. Maduro's chasing after those factory owners, and he says that he will imprison them for not running and not producing things like toilet paper and or beer. That is when it gets really, really bad. So I wish the best for them and the people there that are trying to find some resolution. I don't think that raw naked capitalism and the expansion of European interests will necessarily benefit the people. Neither do I think that if the Russians or the Chinese come in with bankers and, one of the things that's kind of a counter, one of the biggest oppositions to U.S. global dominance would be investment banks that rival the World Bank and the IMF. They're looking for opportunities as well. They're looking for places to spend their dollars. Some people are saying, well, can the Venezuelans embrace the dollar? They could. I mean, when you have hyperinflationary measures because of government control, what do? Well, there is a standard. The dollar, the Federal Reserve note, is still well respected and internationally taken. It could be one way to transition to, I don't know, towards a Japanese digital Bitcoin kind of blockchain system. There are countries toying with these ideas of going cashless, and that will be a trend. I think will be an interesting consequence of what we have now. So, obviously, I have no economic advice for Venezuela other than to let people smartly invest and or take on more debt, or you have the option of printing your own money, and that works well sometimes when you have the power that the U.S. does with all of its military might backing the U.S. dollar, and international investments, global hedging through this huge treasury and bond market. You do produce some stability. I say that, some stability. Whereas if you print money into thin air, into oblivion, if you don't have that notoriety and you don't have the perception, the prestige, doesn't necessarily work out so good for your country, as you can see with their own currency inflating or deflating to probably inflating right now 300-400%, and then we will, if nothing happens, probably see some kind of without monetary intervention, a deflationary period. So will the venture capitalists and other economic hitmen come in and extract and exploit the resources of Venezuela? That's usually what happens. That is the other side of that. So is there a Project Condor happening, Plan Condor, like what took place in the 1970s and 80s under Henry Kissinger? Probably. All right, guys, quick break. You can be part of it. 800-313-9443. It's Blacklisted Radio. All right, welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. I saw some interesting conversation happening in the chat room at blacklistedradio.com, and it reminded me of an article I saw today out of Defense One, and that is that the U.S. economy is built up and is really powered by the military-industrial complex. It's it's a duopoly of power over the executive, over the other three branches of government. It's really the deep state. It's the fourth branch of government, and the economy, of course, is primarily driven by these corporations that make billions upon billions of dollars off of the energy sector, the weapons sector, the companies that have the most, even now the technology sector here in the U.S. But this brings some I think perspective. With oil revenue down, commercial firms eye military business. This comes from a recent study done by Capital Alpha Partners, who is looking at non-energy growth businesses, companies that provide services, transportation, mechanical services, pipe laying services, all of the different things that go into the energy sector are looking for new ways to make money and new opportunities. And of course, war is big business. Oil is usually the driver behind many geopolitical and war-driven decisions. You can go back to Iran, the early 1950s. The Shah did something very similar to what Maduro and Hugo Chavez did, and that was, he attempted to nationalize the BP oil fields, and this was a big source of contention, and, he got out of there with his life, but he was permanently imprisoned after that for those kind of shenanigans. The U.S., CIA, British MI5, MI6 have other ways that they pressure governments to go along. But going back to this, Callan, who writes for Alpha Partners, observed that the Bristow and Oceaneering companies, two firms largely associated with the energy sector, had display booths at the Navy League's annual Air Space Conference outside Washington this week. The lion's share of exhibitors at military shows like this are generally focused on defense contracts, whether they are smaller suppliers or defense titans such as Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics. Houston-based Bristow, by contrast, is the largest global provider of air transportation to offshore oil and gas industry rigs, and they have 450 helicopters. They're a huge company that's looking for expanding their lion's share. They want a Cubs share alongside these behemoths: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, SAIC. The list goes on. Billions and billions of dollars. So that's one of the best political tools we have to do business with countries like Saudi Arabia. We sell them weapons. Countries like Iraq, our new empires. A lot of that money that they extract from their citizenry goes right back to the U.S. in weapons and small arms ammunition and other riot control gear. There's just so much money. But really, when you look at the economy, I think there's that relationship, the special relationship between the military-industrial complex, and that's often how economies and dollars, pesos, drachmas, tally sticks, whatever it may be, are usually able to stand at least the test of an empire, is whether or not they can control that. Taxation, being able to leverage debt against your citizens, your future citizens, the children of your children's children. Those things do weigh into the relevance of those currencies. So, that's one of the things I think a lot of people have their, they can't understand or comprehend is, where does the value of a Bitcoin come from? Well, it's the cycling of computer processors that create these algorithms that mine coins. So it's the electricity, the time, and the effort, and the processing power that give it scarcity. Something that's if everybody has 100 billion pesos or 100 billion dollars. If I have 100 billion dollars and you have 100 billion dollars, the guy down the street has 100 billion dollars. Well, more than likely, $100 billion doesn't have a lot of value. That's just the way it works, and that's what you have in Venezuela. That's what you have in a lot of countries. Puerto Rico is kind of interesting because, of course, they do use the dollar. They have faux representation in Congress. They have a congressman and they have a senator. They don't get to vote on anything. Apparently, when you're occupied by the U.S. government and you hold in this limbo state as Puerto Rico is, you have no rights, no representation. Anyway, back to this. I want to talk about it for a moment. Brazil's new acting president was U.S. Embassy intelligence source in 2006. I mean, this is why the U.S. gets the bad rap that it deserves for shenanigans and covert operations in South America. And I think it's a damn shame because, it makes it so easy for people like Maduro that have horrible policies that have in corruption at the highest order, which has led to their demise. Not so much even probably the CIA. I mean, you can blame them for, creating alongside George Soros and other groups, a lot of rabble rousers, a lot of people out there speaking, probably in most cases a little truth to power, because most of these people are pretty corrupt, and that's evident because of this new piece that came out today, interestingly enough, from Zero Hedge about the Panama Papers, and we'll get there, but this guy, acting president of Brazil, briefed American diplomats on sensitive political matters back in 2006. He's a snitch, according to published cables by the international whistleblower website WikiLeaks. Michael Temer is leader of the Brazilian Democratic Movement Party, known as PMDB, although it is one of Brazil's largest political parties. It's been unable to muster enough electoral support to govern the country on its own. As a result, under his leadership, the PMDB has been a partner of every governing coalition in Brazil since 1995. During the administration of left-wing President Dilma Rousseff, Temer held the post of vice president. So, warming up to spooks and maybe the U.S. Was something that Dilma should have done, because apparently her corruption has ousted her. David Cameron, other people that are released in these Panama Papers, and that even people like Vladimir Putin that have had the Olympics and probably lost more money on a national level and made more money for themselves because of these events. So don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not that I'm saying, oh, well, Vladimir Putin's a bad guy and, Barack Obama isn't. I get that a lot. Whereas if you say something that's, I do appreciate his position on certain issues, on genetically modified organisms, on the U.S. empire building and running counter to that. I appreciate him sanctioning Crimea and actually giving these people safe passage. There's a lot of things I could commend the guy for, but is he a kind of scummy criminal that's a multi-billionaire? Yeah, he is. He is. And is he been able to immerse himself in undue wealth while at the helm of his new appointed position, his reappointment to being the president of Russia? Yes, he has. Now, has he done a lot of good things for the people in Syria? Absolutely. Are they self-interested? Strategic maneuvers on his part, more so than maybe humanitarian. I mean, I see people cheering on, Russia bombing people. The U.S. does it. It's not so good. But, at the same time, I don't feel as on the hook for Vladimir Putin's misdeeds, because, he's not my president. I'm not paying him taxes. And what the U.S. has done has not only been atrocious, illegal, but it hasn't worked very well. The nation building over the last 40 years under the Henry Kissinger doctrine has not gone well. It has not made the U.S. safer. With the economic expansion that you could attribute to some of the things that we enjoy, like cheap Chinese products, the dismantling and outsourcing of the manufacturing base and every other base of economy or economic independence that we have in this country. I mean, yeah, that's what you can attribute to Henry Kissinger. Besides the millions of people in Cambodia, besides all the people that died in Chile, and besides all the blood. I mean, these people. That's why Hillary Clinton talks to Henry Kissinger, because they are both war criminals. She's an aspiring one. You have an acting president in Barack Obama who is actually making decisions of who lives and who dies, an evident war crime when he makes those decisions from the executive military decisions. I mean, these things are characteristic of a banana republic. The only thing that we have is more guns. Really, at the end of the day, that is the only big difference between Brazil and the United States of America. Brazil can't blow up the world 10 times over, and we could. So there you go. When looking at some of the things happening here in the U.S., I have a few mention-worthy stories. NFL to pay over $700,000 back to U.S. taxpayers for their sponsored patriotism. It's pretty rancid when you have the National Football League that is a tax-exempt corporation. They don't pay taxes. They pay themselves egregious salaries. Roger Goodell, the head of the NFL, the commissioner, $43 million a year from this nonprofit that received a lot of other bailout money from the $750 billion that Hank Paulson and that chick, I forget her name now, I don't care, the Kashkaris out there and all of those bankster gangsters that were in the headlines. But Hank Paulson and the crew, he's actually become an Avenger. But they gave millions of dollars to upgrade NASCAR's racetracks. They gave a lot of money to the National Football League to, keep America going with lots of patriotic propaganda, and they paid for it. So the NFL, I guess, has had a change of heart and decided that, out of the billions of dollars we probably don't pay in taxes and we put in our own little pockets, because there's this illusion, if you're a nonprofit, that you're providing some kind of service, humanitarian and or spiritual and or political service to the people, and thus you're operating it a non-profit way, which is just a huge scam anyway. But I saw this, and it infuriates me that people don't know this. You have so many fanatics, and that's what a fan is, a fanatic. That's what it's short for. These people that are, looking at this gladiatorial blood sport, which I am a fan of, so it's not that I'm a hypocrite, but I'm well aware of what the machine is and the beast that it truly, truly is. Whereas most people see it as this altruistic, really American, great thing, and blah, blah, blah. They have no idea that they're not paying taxes. Most people, like Henry Ford said best, and I paraphrase, but if people understood how the economy and how money worked, they would, have pitchforks and torches, and they would burn us down. He's been so misquoted so many times in that that's why I just paraphrase. But that was essentially the idea that, if people understood how money was created, how debt was created, if they understood the Federal Reserve System, they would probably be pretty disenfranchised. The only thing that I guess is a saving grace in that is that we've been able to keep up the fraud for so long, and so many people believe it. But you can condition people to believe just about anything. Portland, turning to education, a few other newsworthy stories. They have banned all books that question anthropomorphic global warming. Now, I don't care where you're at with it. To me, I guess it's a non-issue in that I think that we should be doing things more efficiently with less waste and in a just way. I don't believe in carbon taxes because they don't cap any kind of carbon creation, even though looking at NASA's own science, you have to debate whether or not the greening of the planet is being attributed to that. We already see just these lame attempts to subjugate people and to get people to not think critically of what it is, the popular thought of the day. And so, and it's not that I absolutely don't believe that it's happening. I believe that there are definitely huge consequences that, the 5 billion plus people on planet Earth are doing, and that we are terraforming the world in not so great ways. You look down to the Amazon basin, the deforestation, with people trying to create and build farmland. The other side of that is the displacement of wildlife in general. So that there is always an effect. And the constant battle for the money and the minds of the people is at the forefront when looking at, burning and banning books. We're there. All right, quick break. Final segment on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's Blacklisted Radio. All right, welcome back. It's the final segment. Still time for you, 800-313-9443. There in the chat room, Meat Dog said, one of the fine chatters, brought up some great points about socialism, one of the primary factors that goes into what we have in Venezuela. Not so much maybe the CIA's dirty tricks, but, a system that is corrupt from within. And that's the problem with socialism and having a socialist dictator type is that, yeah, they may seem benevolent and, talk a great game. And Hugo Chavez did that. He called George Bush Satan, said he smelled like sulfur at the United Nations and that, it's the evil capitalists that are coming after him. But it was corruption from within because of that absolute power. That is the ultimate problem with the consolidation of the deep state and the executive branch, where you no longer have a balance of power, where you have no accountability. You're going to have people that are going to abuse that. And so that's why you have to have more division. And regardless of whether or not we lose some, I think of the... When you look at people like Portland banning books, the people, I believe, should be able to control their children's education at a local level, for better or worse. You might have people in the South that are trying to teach your kids creationism, whether you like it or not. People, have an agenda, and most of them reach towards the children. There's a pretty interesting piece from Campus Reform today about this questionnaire, this test that says what is one of the main functions of government, and the correct answer was income redistribution among Americans. So there's people that believe that, and when you have that inability for people to have individual rights, that's when you have the big problem where people no longer can control that. So, yeah, there's going to be downsides. You're going to have people like the Portland School Board going after any kind of questioning. And I think that, that in and of itself is pretty sad, where you don't want people questioning popular science. It reminds me of the days of Flat Earth. You couldn't question Flat Earth. You couldn't talk about these things because it wasn't so much the issue. It was that you were saying that all of these people that were prominent and figureheads and royalty were wrong, and that they were stupid, and it was undermining their authority and their godliness, their religion, their doctrine that they have used to claim power over the people. The reason that we're in control now is because we're divine blood, and we're appointed by our royal bloodlines. I mean, you still have the remnants of that. The Queen last week in her $1 million little crown that she wears. She is such a little pug. Told people about that they have to worry about fiscal or that they should be fiscally responsible, and that people need to watch their money. It's pretty easy from her vantage point. So there you go. My final thoughts on socialism. It doesn't work because it empowers the few that end up taking the money and running. And that is a big problem, just like U.S. corporations going and outsourcing jobs, taking the money and running. All right. That is the show, guys. Powered tonight by Kombucha Live, which is great. Dreamy Orange. I enjoyed that. Guys, go to blacklistedradio.com if you enjoy this show. Support it. It is not a sales pitch. You are not the product the show is. So support it. Be a producer. And I'll be back next week. Until then, everyone, take care. Hey, Ken.
Good show, Doug. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, yeah. Good show, man.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, kombucha.
Yeah, if you're at HEB, it's called it says soda. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've gotten them. Yeah.
Oh my God, they're so good.
Yeah, I've drank them. They are good.
Really
All
good,
right, man.
All right, bro. Bye.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
You too.